Brazil has become the world's leading beef exporter, driven by its vast herd, low cost, and global reach. But a 50% U.S. tariff announced in July and implemented in August has changed the landscape. Even so, July set a record for exports to the U.S. So where does the industry go from here? I'm Johanna Bota, and today I'm joined by StoneX's Brazil market intelligence analyst, Larissa Alvarez. Larissa, welcome. Good to see you. Let's begin with the big picture. How are U.S. tariffs impacting Brazil's beef industry?
Thanks, Johanna, for the introduction. The US is Brazil's second largest beef market, so the announcements of tariffs naturally raise a lot of concern. But here's the thing. By the middle of 2025, Brazil had already shipped almost the same volume to the US as it did in all of 2024. That means even if nothing else is exported this year, total levels will still be very close to what we've seen recently. And the biggest difference from Brazil's perspective is that a market worth more than $1 billion will lose the opportunity to keep growing inside the world's largest economy. Looking at the numbers, beef exports total $1.3 billion in 2024. And by August 2025, official Brazilian data shows that figure has already reached $1.2 billion. So again, even if exports stop today to the US, the outcome will still be close to last year's levels. On the EU side, though, this means that the competitiveness of Brazilian beef prices will weigh on domestic demand because so far Brazilian beef has proven being cheaper than alternatives like Australian or Canadian beef, which are also important suppliers for the American market.
Right. So this August actually was the best ever for the sector, right? And it was because China stepped in to more than cover the gap left by the U.S. How much has diversification helped Brazil soften the blow from these tariffs?
You're right, because after all the initial concerns about the US tariffs and what they could mean for Brazilian beef exports, the reality turned out very differently. In fact, August ended up being a record month, the best August ever for Brazilian beef. And what happened is that China more than made up for the drop in shipments to the US, and other markets also step up as solid buyers. It really shows how diversification continues to be Brazil's best strategy for navigating challenges in global trade. But just to give you an idea, according to the latest trade data, Brazil shipped about 268,000 tons of beef in August. That's a big jump of 23% higher than the same month last year. It's important to remember again that 2025 has already been historic for the US market, and China consistently accounts for more than half of all purchases. But even before new tariffs kick in, Mexico was gaining ground, actually overtaking the US as the second largest buyer and tripling in its imports year on year. So, when the new tariffs finally took effect in August, the market was waiting to see how things will play out. And what we saw was China strengthening its lead even further. Its share of Brazil beef export jumped to almost 60% that month, up from about 22% before the tariff. And that increase not only offset the loss of US, it also proved how resilient global demand still is. And at the same time, other destinations, not only Mexico, but also Russia, Chile, the Philippines, the Middle East, the European Union, and Indonesia, which in particular um, saw export rise sixfold compared to 2024. And just how important they are in this diversification story. So they ensured that the beef Brazil couldn't sell to the US quickly found new markets.
That's right. But beyond diversification, what else can Brazil do to safeguard and expand its beef exports?
Brazil has a few other important tools it can use to protect and even grow its beef export. One of them is adapting the product mix. For example, cuts usually destined for the US can be redirected to countries where demand is strong, such as Mexico and Indonesia, as I already said, and markets across the Middle East and North Africa. Another big area is traceability and compliance. With Europe enforcing new deforestation rules, Brazil can invest in more robust tracking system that not only ensures compliance but could actually become a competitive advantage, showing buyers that Brazilian beef is sustainable and trustworthy. And then there's market penetration, because Brazil already has a foothold in places like Asian and Middle East, but there is still plenty of room to grow, particularly with halal certified production, because expanding the capacity will open more doors in countries like Malaysia, Vietnam, and across the Gulf. And finally, risk management, because given how volatile global trade can be, tools like currency and freight hedging can help shield exporters from swings in exchange rate or shipping cost, giving them more stability and confidence when planning ahead.
I see. And one last thing, and this is for you looking into the future. How do you see Brazil's beef sector performing over the next few years?
There are, of course, some challenges still on the table. Trade tensions with the US could linger, broader geopolitical risk remains in the background, and the European Union continues to present compliance hurdles that need attention. But the opportunities clearly outweigh the risk, in my opinion, because protein demand is expanding rapidly across Asia and the Middle East, and Brazilian beef is steadily winning recognition in new markets. So, looking ahead, Brazil's resilience and adaptability stand out because its leadership in global beef export is solid and unlikely to be challenged anytime soon. And with new technologies being adopted throughout the production chain, the industry is becoming not only more efficient, but also more competitive, pointing to an even stronger future.
Larissa, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you to our viewers for watching. For more financial content, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.